think I figured it out. Why they call them shoal exercise sandals.
And our guests are starting to arrive.
The 1970s was a decade of bold fashion experiments and daring style choices, some unforgettable, others downright disastrous. From flashy fabrics to quirky silhouettes, many trends promised to redefine style but instead fell flat. Join us as we explore 25 innovative fashion trends from the 1970s that failed miserably, revealing how even the most creative ideas can miss the mark and leave a lasting legacy of fashion flops. The 1970s embraced daring fashion experiments, and vinyl jumpsuits epitomized this boldness. Made from shiny synthetic vinyl, these one-piece outfits aimed to blend futuristic style with a rebellious edge. However, vinyl proved to be uncomfortable, non-breathable, and prone to causing excessive sweating. The material also had a stiff texture, limiting movement and making the jumpsuits impractical for everyday wear. While popular in disco scenes and some avant-garde circles, vinyl jumpsuits failed to gain widespread acceptance. Their flashy appearance quickly became associated with kitsch rather than chic, and the trend faded as people favored more comfortable fabrics. Today, vinyl jumpsuits are remembered as a flashy but impractical relic of 1970s fashion excess. Vinyl jumpsuits dazzled with futuristic flair, but could pop-top clothing follow suit or falter in style? Pop-top clothing in the 1970s sought to combine fashion with functionality by integrating poppers, snap fasteners, into garments for easy customization and ventilation. This innovation promised versatility, allowing wearers to quickly adjust sleeves, collars, or pant legs. Unfortunately, the trend suffered from poor execution. Poppers often malfunctioned or fell off, making clothes look cheap and worn out. Additionally, the constant popping and unpopping became annoying rather than convenient. Many consumers found the look gimmicky, and the clothing lacked aesthetic appeal beyond novelty. Despite the practical concept, pop-top clothing failed to resonate with the broader public and disappeared from mainstream fashion, serving as a reminder that innovation alone doesn't guarantee style success. Pop-top clothing offered versatility with snaps, but did terry cloth jumpsuits bring comfort or confusion? Terry cloth, usually reserved for towels and robes, made an unusual leap into 1970s fashion with terry cloth jumpsuits. These one-piece garments aimed to combine comfort with a casual yet trendy look. While the fabric was soft and absorbent, perfect for lounging, the jumpsuits were heavy, bulky, and often unflattering in fit. The material absorbed moisture but was slow to dry, making it impractical for outdoor wear. Despite some popularity among youth and leisure wear enthusiasts, terry cloth jumpsuits struggled to appeal to audiences beyond the niche. They quickly became associated with laziness rather than style, leading the trend to fade by the late 1970s. They remain a quirky footnote in fashion history. Bell sleeves, characterized by their wide, flared shape, were a defining fashion trend of the 1970s, deeply influenced by bohemian and hippie styles. They added a dramatic, romantic touch to garments like dresses and blouses, quickly becoming popular for their unique silhouette. Despite their eye-catching appeal, bell sleeves often proved impractical, frequently catching on objects and complicating daily activities. As the decade progressed, fashion tastes shifted toward more streamlined and tailored designs, making bell sleeves seem outdated and excessive. Though they occasionally reappear in modern fashion cycles as nostalgic or statement pieces, their bulky and cumbersome nature limits everyday wearability. Consequently, bell sleeves faded from mainstream fashion, lingering mostly in niche revivals and vintage-inspired collections. Earth shoes, introduced in the early 1970s, featured a unique negative heel design intended to promote better posture and foot health. The idea was that a heel lower than the toe would reduce back pain and improve balance. Although they attracted health-conscious consumers and gained a brief cult following, the shoes were awkward to walk in and caused discomfort for many wearers. Their unconventional look also clashed with mainstream fashion, limiting appeal. Negative reviews and inconsistent benefits led to waning popularity by the mid-1970s. Despite resurfacing periodically as a niche wellness product, Earth shoes are remembered mainly as a well-intentioned but flawed footwear experiment from the decade. Patchwork denim jeans emerged in the 1970s as a colorful, crafty take on classic denim, combining various denim scraps sewn together in bold patterns. Inspired by the decade's embrace of DIY and hippie aesthetics, they promised individuality and a bohemian vibe. However, their uneven textures and clashing shades often made the jeans look messy and unpolished rather than trendy. The heavy stitching and patch overlays also made them uncomfortable and less durable. Though embraced by some counterculture groups, patchwork denim failed to appeal to mainstream fashion, where cleaner cuts and solid washes were preferred. By the late 70s, this style was seen as overly kitschy and faded from popularity, serving as a quirky but impractical experiment in denim design. Patchwork denim jeans embraced DIY spirit, so did wide collar shirts widen fashion's appeal or miss the mark? Wide collar shirts were a defining feature of 1970s fashion, symbolizing the era's flair and flamboyance. The exaggerated collars, often extending past the lapels, were meant to add drama and personality to outfits, whether casual or formal. Initially, they captured attention in disco culture and mainstream wardrobes alike. However, as the decade progressed, the collars became increasingly oversized and awkward-looking, overwhelming many wearers' faces and necklines. Their exaggerated proportions clashed with the emerging minimalist trends of the late 70s. By the 1980s, wide collars were widely mocked and abandoned. Though sometimes nostalgically revived, wide collar shirts are now mainly remembered as an emblem of the decade's bold, sometimes excessive, style choices. Cutout swimsuits in the 1970s introduced a daring blend of modesty and exposure, featuring strategic cutouts along the torso, back, or hips. These designs sought to add sex appeal while maintaining coverage, capitalizing on the era's growing fascination with body positivity and freedom. However, many cutouts compromised comfort and functionality, making the swimsuits prone to shifting awkwardly during movement or water activities. Some designs were overly complicated, with straps and openings that proved challenging to wear. The trend struggled to strike a balance between style and practicality and never achieved widespread adoption. By the end of the decade, simpler swimsuit designs regained favor, relegating cutout styles to the fringes of 1970s swimwear fashion. The double denim look, also known as the Canadian tuxedo, gained traction in the 1970s by pairing denim jackets with jeans. While the idea of a coordinated denim-on-denim outfit had novelty appeal, the trend often resulted in a mismatched, heavy, and visually overwhelming appearance. Variations in denim, wash, fit, and texture frequently clashed, making it difficult to pull off with style. Additionally, the stiffness and weight of multiple denim layers made the outfit uncomfortable, especially in warmer weather. Though some celebrities experimented with the look, mainstream fashion dismissed double denim as tacky or outdated. While it has sporadically returned as a retro nod, its initial run is remembered as a failed attempt at overindulgence in denim. Moon boots were inspired by astronauts' footwear and became a winter fashion fad in the 1970s. These bulky, insulated boots promised warmth and a futuristic look with their puffy, oversized silhouette and distinctive synthetic materials. Although they offered excellent protection against cold weather, their enormous size and unconventional style polarized fashion lovers. Many considered them clunky and unattractive, unsuitable for everyday wear outside ski resorts or snow-heavy environments. Moon boots also struggled to blend with typical winter wardrobes. Despite their functional benefits and occasional cult following, the trend waned by the late 1970s, remembered today as an eccentric and impractical footwear experiment tied closely to space-age fantasies. Moon boots reached for futuristic warmth. Yet, how did satin bomber jackets fare in their glossy ambitions? Satin bomber jackets emerged as a flashy alternative to traditional outerwear in the 1970s, featuring glossy, shiny finishes that captured disco-era glamour. These jackets aimed to fuse sporty silhouettes with luxurious textures, appealing to trendsetters seeking standout pieces. However, satin's delicate nature made the jackets prone to snagging and wear, limiting their practicality. Moreover, the shiny material often appeared cheap or gaudy when not styled carefully, turning off more conservative consumers. While popular in nightlife and music scenes, satin bombers struggled to gain mainstream wardrobe acceptance and quickly became associated with over-the-top disco kitsch. Their fleeting popularity underscores the decade's frequent oscillation between style innovation and excess. Gaucho pants, inspired by Argentine cowboys, became a notable 1970s fashion trend characterized by their wide-legged, calf-length design. They aimed to blend comfort with a bohemian, carefree style, appealing especially to hippie and free-spirited fashion enthusiasts. Their loose fit allowed for ease of movement and a breezy silhouette, making them ideal for casual wear. However, gaucho pants often proved unflattering on many body types, as their wide legs and unusual length could create a bulky, disproportionate appearance. Styling them was also challenging, as they rarely suited formal occasions and were difficult to pair with other wardrobe staples. Though they enjoyed brief popularity, gaucho pants struggled to gain lasting mainstream appeal. By the late 1970s, they were largely dismissed as an impractical, niche trend that failed to deliver the versatility or style expected from a lasting fashion staple.
I think I figured it out. Why they call them Shoal exercise sandals. I got them because they feel so good, and they go almost anywhere.
Dr. Scholl's wooden sandals made a splash in the 1970s, promising orthopedic support combined with earthy, natural aesthetics. These clogs featured thick wooden soles and leather straps, targeting consumers interested in comfort and the growing health-conscious movement. However, the heavy wooden base made them cumbersome to walk in, and the lack of flexibility led to discomfort over extended wear. Their chunky appearance clashed with more polished fashion styles and was often seen as clunky or unattractive. While popular among certain bohemian and alternative circles, wooden sandals failed to become a mainstream footwear staple and remain a quirky, divisive icon of 1970s comfort fashion. Tube tops gained popularity in the 1970s as a symbol of youthful freedom and disco-era glamour. These strapless, form-fitting tops were designed to accentuate the shoulders and midriff while maintaining a minimalist look. Though fashionable, tube tops posed practical challenges including frequent slipping and the need for constant adjustment. Their limited support made them unsuitable for many body types, restricting wearability. As fashion shifted towards more versatile and comfortable garments, tube tops fell out of favor, often associated with fleeting disco trends. Despite periodic revivals in later decades, the original 1970s tube top is remembered as a bold but ultimately impractical garment for everyday wear. The visible chest hair trend gained momentum in the 1970s as a marker of rugged masculinity and natural confidence. Men's fashion embraced open shirts and low necklines that showcased chest hair, often paired with gold chains. While it symbolized a break from the clean-cut ideals of previous decades, the trend wasn't universally appreciated. Some found the look overly provocative or unkempt, and it clashed with emerging grooming standards. The trend's peak was short-lived, and by the 1980s, chest hair was less celebrated as styles shifted toward a sleeker, more polished aesthetic. Today, it remains an iconic but divisive aspect of 70s male fashion culture. Space dresses of the 1970s drew inspiration from the burgeoning space race and sci-fi craze, featuring metallic fabrics, futuristic cuts, and bold geometric shapes. These dresses aimed to capture a forward-looking, avant-garde spirit. However, the materials used were often stiff, uncomfortable, and prone to wrinkling or tearing. Their dramatic silhouettes and shiny finishes made them difficult to wear in everyday contexts and often appeared costume-like. While celebrated in niche fashion circles and events, space dresses never achieved mainstream success and quickly became associated with kitsch and theatricality. They serve as a vivid example of how imaginative fashion can sometimes prioritize concept over comfort and practicality.
Check out this great belt. It's the Vans studded leather belt. Obviously from Vans. This great belt is made of genuine leather. You got a silver-toned single-pronged buckle to give you a nice secure fit, and 3 rows of pyramid.
Studded belts became a popular accessory in the 1970s punk and rock scenes, intended to convey rebellion and edgy style. Made with leather straps adorned with metal studs, spikes, or rivets, they added a tough, aggressive aesthetic to outfits. However, outside subcultures, studded belts often seemed harsh or overly aggressive, limiting their broader fashion appeal. Their sharp metal accents could be uncomfortable or damage delicate fabrics. As punk faded from mainstream fashion in the late 1970s and early 80s, studded belts were largely abandoned by the general public. Although they remain iconic within the alternative fashion scene, their commercial failure stems from their niche appeal and limited versatility. Striped full-body outfits were a bold and eye-catching 1970s fashion experiment, featuring continuous stripes that ran vertically or horizontally from the neck to the ankle. These outfits, often made from stretchy materials like lycra or polyester, aimed to create a sleek, streamlined silhouette. Despite their intended avant-garde appeal, the all-over stripes frequently overwhelmed wearers, distorting proportions and making movement visually confusing. The bold patterns clashed with other fashion elements and often looked gimmicky or costume-like rather than stylish. Practicality also suffered as the tight fits and synthetic fabrics caused discomfort. Though embraced by some disco dancers and performers, striped full-body outfits quickly faded from mainstream fashion, remembered as a daring but ultimately failed visual statement. Striped full-body outfits made bold statements, yet how did authentic fur coats fare amid rising controversy?
Investors know it pays to be patient. If you waited until after Christmas for Bloomingdale's Smart Money First Sale, you could be wrapped in sumptuous savings from the Northern Lights Fur Salon.
In the 70s, authentic fur coats symbolized luxury, status, and classic style, enjoying popularity among the wealthy elite. However, rising animal rights activism and growing awareness of ethical concerns around fur harvesting began to tarnish their reputation. Despite their warmth and craftsmanship, fur coats increasingly became associated with cruelty and environmental harm. Public opinion shifted dramatically during the decade, leading to protests and boycotts. Additionally, the heavy weight and high cost limited their accessibility. As a result, authentic fur coats faced declining popularity by the late 1970s, replaced by synthetic alternatives. While still worn by some, the trend marked the beginning of a long-lasting backlash against fur in fashion. Tied tops became a casual staple in the 1970s, characterized by shirts or blouses tied at the waist to reveal the midriff. Popular among youth and influenced by surf and bohemian cultures, they projected a laid-back, carefree vibe. However, tied tops had limited versatility and were often seen as overly casual or juvenile, restricting their wear to informal settings. The cropped design also alienated those uncomfortable with midriff exposure. Some styles were poorly constructed, resulting in awkward fits or tops coming undone. While the tied top appeared frequently in summer fashion, it lacked staying power and quickly became passé as the decade progressed, viewed as a fleeting trend tied to specific subcultures.
It's people walking around looking as if they are going salmon fishing or something when they're quite clearly not. And this is because the Barber quilted jacket has this winter done what the Hunter Welly did.
Quilted jackets, popular in the 1970s for their warmth and textured appearance, combined practicality with a nod to rustic, outdoorsy aesthetics. Made with stitched padding and geometric patterns, they were meant for comfort and casual style. However, the bulky silhouettes often added unwanted volume, making wearers appear larger than they were. The synthetic materials used sometimes felt cheap or overly shiny, detracting from the jacket's appeal. Although functional for cold weather, quilted jackets often lacked the sleekness and fashion-forward design that many consumers desired. By the end of the decade, they were often relegated to utilitarian use rather than style statements, marking a practical but unremarkable chapter in outerwear fashion. Disco suits epitomized the glitzy, high-energy vibe of the late 1970s nightclub scene, featuring shiny fabrics, flared pants, and exaggerated collars. Intended to catch the light and move fluidly on the dance floor, these suits were flashy and attention-grabbing. However, their ostentatious style quickly became overplayed and associated with excess and kitsch. The heavy polyester fabrics were uncomfortable and prone to static cling, while the tight fits restricted movement despite being designed for dancing. As disco music's popularity waned, so did the suits, which fell out of favor and became a symbol of a dated, gaudy fashion era. Today, they are often viewed as costume pieces rather than stylish attire. Disco suits sparkled under the lights, but did velvet blazers add smooth sophistication or simply pile on excess? Velvet blazers in the 1970s sought to merge sophistication with texture, adding plush softness and richness to men's and women's formal wear. These blazers, often in jewel tones, became popular for evening events and disco nights. However, their heavy, sometimes shiny fabric was difficult to maintain and could appear gaudy or outdated if not styled carefully. The material was prone to crushing and staining, reducing practicality. While velvet blazers captured the decade's flair for bold fabrics, their limited versatility and tendency to look over the top caused many to avoid them outside special occasions. By the 1980s, velvet blazers had largely fallen out of fashion, remembered as a flashy but cumbersome trend. Velvet blazers brought plush elegance, but was feathered hair the perfect finishing touch or a styling headache? Feathered hair became an iconic 1970s hairstyle marked by layers that framed the face with soft, outward flicks, popularized by celebrities like Farrah Fawcett. The style aimed to create volume and movement with a natural yet glamorous look. Despite its initial popularity, feathered hair required significant maintenance, including frequent trims, blow-drying, and styling products to maintain the signature shape. Over time, the look became ubiquitous, leading to oversaturation and parody. As trends shifted toward simpler or different hair textures in the late 70s and 80s, feathered hair quickly lost favor. While still occasionally revived, it's often remembered as a high-maintenance style that dominated and then dated the decade.